Free speech. Free speech is one of the most important fundamental principles that ensures the fabric of every relationship survives. The relationship between men and women, the relationship between the people in government, the relationship between friends. Because when people stop talking, when people stop communicating, divorces happen, marriages fall apart, wars happen, violence ensues, friendship groups split up. Communication is key, and communication is free speech. When we stop talking between each other, it creates an even more divisive country. And that's what we're seeing right now. There's no communication between the left and the right. When the right tries to talk, the left just come out with the fascist scum off our streets, and we will not debate fascists. And then when the left tries and talks, the right just makes fun of them. And so what we're seeing right now is, because there is no discourse between the two political theologies, is we're seeing an extremely divided country. Now, free speech isn't just important in terms of that. It's also important in the democratic process. When the government wants to pass legislation, for example, you need to have the ability in order to debate against that legislation. So people can decide, including parliamentary members, whether this piece of legislation is something that they want. And unfortunately, what we're seeing, not just in terms of the political sphere, but also in terms of universities, is that you can say one side of the narrative, but you can't say anything that counteracts that narrative. And I mean, the biggest example of this at the moment is what happened with Sam Melia recently. Now, personally, I don't agree with Sam Melia. Everyone knows that me and Sam kind of dislike each other because we dislike each other's politics. However, he's been sent to prison for 2 years for putting up stickers about white guilt and the fact there will be a minority in our homeland by 2066. And he was sent to prison for 2 years for that. But you're allowed to go around and put up stickers in favour of refugees, but you can't criticise it, otherwise they'll send you to prison. And it's the same in university, where they can say, oh, climate change is real. You say, no, it's not, and you'll get punished for it. Same with there are only two genders. Like, there was an incident at the UEA, so the University of East Anglia, where people were putting up stickers, gender-critical stickers, and the police were called. So you can say one side of the narrative, but not the other. And this is something that's been happening in the UK for a very long time, and it's all to do with Marxism. Now, whether people believe that Marxism is just an economic belief, that is false. Marx purely provided an economic foundation, but there is no political ideology out there that only focuses on economics. It intertwines other aspects, like cultural and social dimensions. So while Marx provided purely an economic foundation, you had liberal ideas and progressivism built on top of that, adding gender, identity, freedom of expression, etc. into the mix. But there's a reason I mention this. Now, if you don't know what the Russel Group is, the Russel Group is pretty much like they're kind of like the Ivy League schools of the UK. 8 of the top 10 university spots are occupied by Russel Group Universities. And Glasgow University is one of these Russel Group Universities. The Russel Group, as I just mentioned, has issued new guidance, including, some new diversity and equality training for staff, basically banning phrases or certain words because they're microaggressions. But this isn't a new thing, what Glasgow University is doing. In fact, Surrey University, a while ago now, added an inclusive language guide for teachers to adhere to, where they banned words such as black and blue, black mark, black box, Indian summer, and they told them a bunch of new phrases to replace those old ones with. This is Marxist language revisionism, something to do with cultural Marxism. And you also have the University of Chester adding trigger warnings to Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, because it may bring up unwanted discussions around race, sexuality, and gender. Don't know how they got there, but they did. Now, the University of Glasgow is quite an interesting one, because there was, not too long ago, they published something called Understanding Racism, Transforming University Culture. Now, The idea of transforming culture actually originates from the Frankfurt School, where basically Marx, in his books, predicted that when we go to war, people will side with their inherent social classes. But then we went to war and people put their country first before their class values. And basically what these two Marxist interpreters said was that this is because we have lost our innate link with our social classes. And so in order to revert us back to that, they'd have to completely wipe our culture and start anew. This is what Mao did in with Year Zero in Mao's Cultural Revolution, and numerous other cultural Marxists have done exactly the same. Now, one of the terms banned is saying that the most qualified person should get the job. Yeah, I don't know how that's a microaggression, but apparently this ignores the fact that race plays a part in life's success, and we'll get into that in a second. But I mean, shouldn't the most qualified person get in the job? I think that's a little bit racist, saying that, oh, black people aren't qualified enough to get the job, and so we need to install these diversity quotas because they struggle to get the job on their own. So, you know, I would say saying the most qualified person should get the job is actually less racist than not saying it, if that makes sense, because instead now you're focusing on their skin colour. Now, I mean, you know, talking about these diversity quotas, yeah, of course, race plays a part in life's success because of diversity quotas, which kind of forces it so that you have to hire a certain level of minority and ethnic groups. And, you know, like the MI5 summer internship program, they don't want any whites. It's all about being, if you're from a minority or a financial inequality background, then you're more likely to get the job. I mean, my girlfriend Sydney, when she was applying for jobs in pubs, they're now asking what your race is, what your gender is, what your sexuality. I don't know why it matters, but that's what they're doing. And it's because it's all part of this diversity quota. Getting a job these days as a white straight man has never been more difficult. Never. And that is exactly what racism is. And that is exactly what I thought we were banning when, you know, all these stand-up to racism groups say they're against racism. I thought they'd come out and oppose the diversity quotas. But they're against every kind of racism unless it's against the white working class male. And now another term they've banned is saying men and women have equal opportunities to achievement too. And of course they do. I mean, when I was in secondary school, they were doing clubs for female-only engineers, and that's because they were trying to boost the amount of females in the engineering profession. Now, there was an interesting video I saw by Jordan Peterson on this, and what he said was, because you've got some companies saying, well, we hire 50% men, 50% women when it comes to engineering. But the problem is there are way more men in engineering than there are female ones. And so what you're going to do, so basically you have a bigger pool of good male engineers to choose from than female ones. So in order to get a 50-50 split down the middle, you'd have to decrement the overall quality of your work. Because, as I said, there's going to be way more good male engineers because there are less female engineers overall. So in order to get a 50-50 split exactly, you would decrement the overall quality of your work. We shouldn't be hiring based on race, gender, sexuality or whatever. We should be hiring based on your skill set. Yeah? Now, if there's a black man and a white man, they have the exact same qualifications, exact same experience, who do you think is going to get the job 9 times out of 10? It's not going to be the white man, it's going to be the black man. Do you know why? Because of diversity quotas. That is racism. Now, universities are meant to be bastions of free speech. A marketplace of ideas where you go to debate, explore new concepts. Yeah, that's what university is meant to be about. It sure isn't to get into tens of thousands of pounds of debt, and it sure doesn't help get you a job. Because these days, employers aren't looking for qualifications, they are looking for hands-on experience. So university is a lie in that sense. The main attraction of university is to go there, debate, and explore these new concepts, these new ideas. That's what university is meant to be about. But the problem is now, as you've seen from both of those terms being banned, is that you've got, is that a lot of these people can make an argument, say, yeah, we need diversity quotas, right? And then a counter argument would normally be, well, people should be hired based on qualifications and experience, not on their skin colour. But you can't say that now because they banned it from being said at university. Or if you get into the gender pay gap debate, which is easily explained by the fact that men and women have different likes and different dislikes, so equality of opportunity doesn't equate to equality of outcome. then you can't say, well, men and women have those equal opportunities. And of course, they do have those equal opportunities. They just decide to go into different professions because men and women are inherently different, believe it or not. Men and women have different likes, have different dislikes. Women prefer the social sciences. That's why they go into more jobs like nursing, like social workers. Because they have that more nurturing role, and that's based on biology. Whereas men go into the harder labour jobs, which again is based on their biology, what they're typically better at. But now you can't say that in response to the argument because they banned it. So what they've done essentially is they have banned debate on universities. Now, I've been up to Bradford, I've been up to a lot of these universities where we've tried to get into the student unions to speak with students, to hand them leaflets. And I didn't go up to Bradford, it was actually Wes with Piers Corbyn, yeah? Now, we were immediately approached by security and told to leave. They called the police, we ended up in a meeting, well, they ended up in a meeting with the head teacher of that university. And we were basically told that if we want to do something on their premises again, we've got to get permission from a student society. But the problem is that while they had student societies in LGBTQ, Afghan, Islam, whatever, they didn't have any societies around free speech, around the Conservative Party, around UKIP Party, around debating. They had nothing. It was all very left-wing societies, and that's, of course, because of an agenda they're pushing. And another example of this is another Russel Group University called Newcastle, where they've essentially said that you cannot respond to a police brutality debate by saying, well, white people get killed by police too. And of course, they do get killed by police too, especially unarmed ones. In America, actually, the stats showed that the same year George Floyd died, I think it was like 10 black unarmed people were killed by police and 15 white ones, which, yeah, in proportion doesn't necessarily work, but it's not a massive amount like the media claim, like Hollywood claims. It's actually quite a minuscule amount. And of course, it's a debate that needs to be had on police brutality, because BLM around that time were going down, burning libraries, burning the statues, tearing the statues down. And so this is a debate that needed to be had. We needed to start talking in order to stop this violence from happening. But now what they've done is, at Newcastle University, they've banned you from being able to debate against this argument. So someone could stand there, say a bunch of lies about how BLM, they deserve to riot, and that white officers are always racist to black ones. But then you cannot debate to that argument at all. Otherwise, you will get in trouble at university for spewing microaggressions or committing a hate crime, for example. And universities, the threshold's much lower. They're not like an employer. They can fire you based on your words. I mean, employers can nowadays too. But this isn't the only issue. Another issue that's going on in university right now is decolonization. Decolonization of the curriculum, which has been institutionalized by the QAA, who oversees a lot of what's happening at universities, and basically is about removing white straight men's voices from history. So not only are they getting involved with language revisionism, but they are now revising our history, because these days they've become very anti-white. But decolonization, I think, is another topic for another time. I could do a 45-minute video on that. So I just wanted to do an update video to kind of show what's going on in some of these universities. Right now, we're dealing with stuff at Glasgow University, Newcastle, Durham University. There's a lot of universities that are going through major Marxist-style changes where they are shutting down debate and free speech, persecuting neurodivergent students, and encouraging and humouring behaviour from far-left hate groups or terrorist groups like Antifa, encouraging the behaviour of Just Stop Oil, and then crying about it when Cambridge University gets sprayed with orange paint. But you humoured that behaviour. You encouraged it. Anyway, that's me done. As I said, another video coming soon on decolonisation of the curricula. I'm going to explain that in full. And yeah, this was only a short video, so thank you for watching. Speak to you soon. Cheers.